Every church, every minister should have friends like that.
And it just took the awkward out of it because we were all in it together.
When you spend that time together, you'll begin to cultivate an actual, a genuine friendship.
I'm excited to order your book. I'm going to do that like right after this conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grow Together. I'm Saehee and I'm super excited to co-host this podcast with Mary. Mary, you're amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you represent Chi Alpha tribe. So all the Chi Alphas, give us some thumbs up here. So great. You know what? I just love the season of life and ministry where we are just continuing to like meeting new people. I actually have come up with this phrase. I am in a season of collecting friends. And you are certainly one of my new friends. And actually, I have to give credit. I stole that from Pastor Rod Lloyd. There you go. Yeah. There's a credit for you, Pastor Rod. And he said, I'm collecting new friends. I'm like, you know what? I like that phrase. I'm going to use it. But as I've been going through this different seasons of ministry, just like you have, Mary, I've noticed that there's a different types of friends in my circle. I mean, like, I love my friends now, but they're not the friends that I had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Do you see that in your journey too? Like as your Chi Alpha ministry is probably more so like that, huh?
Yes, definitely. And just because I've moved around a little bit, starting out at Columbus State University, and then I was at Georgia Southern University for a little bit, and now I'm in Atlanta. So definitely had to experience some transitions in friendship with moving. And then I just got married about 9 months ago and moved to a whole new city in the middle of a pandemic. So as the seasons come and, entering into marriage, like all of that has kind of changed some of my friendships around.
Yeah, well, at least you have a best friend. Your husband's right there, so that's good.
I do. He's always reminding me I'm your person.
I love him. That's awesome. I think this topic of friendship is so important because as pastors, I think pastors are one of the loneliest people also. I think it also the culture plays into play. Like if you go to like Korean churches, there's such a hierarchy. Like I am very not Korean, so I want to be everybody's friend. So that's kind of different. But it's a lonely journey, honestly, isn't it? And we want to make sure that we surround ourselves with good friends. And I know that this topic is important, so much so that we want to pursue it and talk a little bit further with our new friends. So you brought two amazing friends, so introduce them to us.
Yes, I did. So one of the guests I'm really excited to introduce is a pastor and a friend of mine and also a mentor of mine. Her name is Pastor Rhonda McGinnis. So she's been doing ministry for over 28 years. And then the last 10 years, she's been the executive pastor at Trinity Church in Sharpsburg, Georgia. So come on.
Man, you are one of my sheroes. You are amazing.
It's so great to be with you today.
That's awesome. Well, we have another friend that you want to invite because this conversation is so exciting. So, Mary.
Yes, so another friend that I'm excited about bringing on is Miss Erika Grant. And so she's been in ministry for over 20 years, doing different things like leading small groups, pioneering some women ministries at the churches that she's been in. She also has taught like some different new beginner classes for Christians that are just coming on and becoming a Christian. And so I'm excited to have her on. And also specifically because she's written a book on this topic called The Friendship Line, came out in 2016. And so now she resides in Savannah, Georgia with her husband and two little ones as an author and a stay-at-home mom. So love to welcome on Miss Erika Grant.
Wow.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, welcome. You're wearing many hats, like both of you. Incredible. Wow. So it seems like you are obviously on this podcast because you are Mary's friends. And I love this generational friendship going on. This is so beautiful. every church, every minister should have friends like that. And I know that friendship is not the consistent thing. The circle of friendship changes. And so navigating friendship in different seasons can be difficult, especially as ministers of the gospel, as you know, right? So what advice would you give to those who operate as pastors or ministry leaders in their church in finding or even maintaining friendships within or even outside the church that they serve in? Let's start with Miss Erika.
That is a great question. There's so many different dynamics to that, but I can say that one of the most challenging things for leaders and pastors in trying to develop friendships or even maintain them is that sometimes it's difficult to discern whether or not this person wants to befriend me just for friendship's sake, or is this person trying to befriend me because of my title, or is there some type of ulterior motive that's going on there? And you also have the dynamic of if you're serving in a church as a leader or a pastor, there are going to be some people within that congregation that are not yet at the maturity level where they can understand that we're just as human and in need of Jesus as everybody else. And so they can see you make a mistake and think, oh my gosh, they're not really the person that I thought they were. And they're not able to extend the grace that you need in a friendship. And so it's challenging to, start a friendship or try to start a friendship when you're thinking of those dynamics in your head. But in any case, whether it's, you're dealing with doubt or hurt, or you're not sure what that person is wanting to do, you just have to be prayerful. You have to pray and ask God for discernment. You have to pray and ask God for wisdom, whether or not you should enter into a relationship with that person. And most of all, you have to be patient so that you can actually see this person's character over a certain period of time to even know, should I even be developing a friendship with this person? Or are there some characteristics that are telling me, okay, no, this might not be a good idea?
That's a really great insight. We just need to use wisdom. Sometimes it's so common knowledge, right? But we just don't. And coming to the Lord for that wisdom is important. Pastor Rhonda, what do you think?
Well, I want to say that was such an outstanding answer, and there's so much about my thoughts that congruent with that. So thank you so much for your insight there. I like to think of leadership as being somewhat of a grateful burden. We're so thankful that we are able to do this with our lives, and we're so thankful that we get to invest our lives in other people and building up the kingdom of God. But there are parts of it that there is a burden to that. There's a great responsibility. And some of that burden can come in the form of being lonely at times. Sometimes with the level of leadership that we transcend into, it can be a little bit lonely. And the key word that I'm going to reiterate here is discernment. Not everybody is at a capacity, a maturity level, of the spiritual discernment to be able to share the commonalities of what we face and what we bear in ministry. And so not everyone is even wired and equipped to handle some of the things that we go through in ministry. And so I think it's so important for people in ministry to really prayerfully consider the people that they enter into in an inner circle with. We need our inner circle. We need our people that we can count on. That I've told many people in my lifetime, you'll probably be able to count them on one hand, right? But people that are proven, people that you can trust. A lot of times it's people that don't live where you minister, just to safeguard your heart, because you're going to need a safe place to talk where there's no threat of that backfiring on you in those moments of being human, in the moments where you need to ask the tough questions. You have to have a trusted friend that you have prayerfully considered to be in your inner circle. I like to think of it in tiers. I try to be kind and encouraging and have great friendships with a lot of people. But as we move into an inner circle, that's a very proven place. It's a very trusted place. And it's something that you have to allow the Holy Spirit to give you great insight into people that have access to your heart. I have had seasons where I've shared too much or been too vulnerable, and it's backfired on me. And so moving forward, I've just leaned in on the wisdom of the Lord to help show me those women that are able to come alongside and hold up my arms and understand my need for friendship, and just to be able to be vulnerable to life's great challenges, right?
That is really true. As for me too, we want to be friends to everybody, right? With everybody. But look at Jesus, and he has a model. He's friends to everybody, to the vulnerable, marginalized, rich and poor. But then there is an inner circle where he is being very himself. I love Network of Ministers for that reason. This is that place. This is our inner circle. So yeah, it's using wisdom and discernment. Thank you so much for that. Mary, let's ask a difficult question. These are amazing women.
Yes, yes. One of the things that Pastor Rhonda said that stood out to me right away was mentioning how we get lonely sometimes in ministry. And so I really wanted to dig deeper into that and just ask, what advice do you guys have then for women that may be experiencing that season of loneliness? Transitions come, whether they just moved or whether they started a new position in ministry. And sometimes it can take a little bit longer to maybe enter into those friendships. So while people are in transition or while people are experiencing seasons of loneliness, what would you guys kind of recommend for them to do?
One of the things that, and Mary and I have even talked about this as we've met together at times. When I feel those feelings of loneliness, I try not to panic. And it's not a sign that you automatically just need to fill up your calendar with a bunch of random appointments with people. One of the first things that I like to do when I'm feeling a season of loneliness is lean into it. Allow myself to feel those feelings and invite the Lord to be a part of it, and ask him the questions. God, I'm feeling lonely right now. Is there something that you're trying to speak to me in this season where I need to hear your voice? I'm not distracted by a lot of other things going on in my life, but I'm feeling this loneliness. Is there something that I need? Am I in need of soul care? Is there something where I can be investing in my spiritual walk in a new and a fresh way? Sometimes my loneliness transcends into another level that the Lord is trying to take me to. And so
Mhm.
I try not to panic right at first. I try to lean into it and say, okay, I am feeling lonely. God, is there something that you're trying to say? And like you said, there's so many transitions and there's so many seasons of ministry where the ebb and flow of your friendships change a little bit. And we can't put our anchor in people. We have to have our anchor in Christ. And so I think when we have our anchor in people, we could find ourselves on an emotional roller coaster, right? Because those friendships do change. We would definitely want to enjoy our friendships, but our anchor has to be in Christ. And as those relationships change, and we might have to let go of some friendships in different seasons as God is changing us and growing us. We just allow new friendships to come into our lives organically. They don't have to be forced. We just trust in the leading of the Lord that he's going to bring the right people into our lives. Um, and I've just found a lot of growth can happen during seasons of loneliness.
That's really good. I love it. And this is an off-the-cuff question, and I would love to ask Erika. We are talking about friendship and changes in friendship, but also I think cultivating important friendship is critical for ministry leadership. How do you cultivate friendship with intergenerationally, but also cross gender friendship? How do we cultivate that as we move on this journey? Now, this is a brand new question we didn't previously discuss, but just off the top of your mind, and Pastor Rhonda, please join and chime in. I think this is an important topic because we're not talking about sisterhood friendship only. We're in ministry. We're leading shoulder to shoulder with our male colleagues and people that are seasoned in ministry, younger than us. So how do we cultivate that well as we go through this change in friendship?
I totally agree with what Pastor Rhonda was saying. Sometimes you need those friends, and they do change with the seasons. But when you're dealing with trying to establish a new friendship, it's completely natural. You don't have to force it. If I see a woman in church and she's older than me, and there's something about her that I admire or I want to learn from her, the chances are, if I go up to her and I say, "Hey, can we go out to coffee or tea?" Because I don't really drink coffee, and you just begin to ask her questions, a lot of people are open to that. And I've established a couple of friendships just like that, just by going to that older lady in the church or going to that younger girl in the church and saying, "Hey, you want to meet up? You want to go out to lunch and sit down and talk?" And I think when you spend that time together, you'll begin to cultivate an actual, a genuine friendship. As far as cross gender, I would say it would be the same thing, but there are some precautions that you obviously want to take with that, especially if you're married or even if you're not married. You just want to be careful that you don't cross a line that's inappropriate. But it's basically just spending time with one another and getting to know each other slowly. Like Miss Rhonda said, you don't have to rush into it and say, "Oh, you're my friend," just because we just met and we're both Christians. You want to take time to see that person's characteristics.
I'd like to add too, one of the things that I've done that's helped me with some gender roles in this, when I first took on the role of executive pastor, I definitely needed some mentoring, and I was the only female in our district that I knew of that was an executive pastor. And I knew that there were some great ones in our district that I could learn so much from. So I just kind of took some bold steps to set up a cohort of a group of people, a cross section of people generationally, that would come together once a quarter, and we would bring our best book we were reading. We would bring one tough thing that we're facing right now, and we would bring one victory and what it looked like. And so all of us brought those three things to that cohort. And we met for a couple of years, and I learned so much from that. And we were able to share through different generations and across gender roles too. And it just took the awkward out of it because we were all in it together, and we learned so much from each other.
Wow, I love it. I think both of you are saying intentionality and proactivity. Like, you see somebody that you admire, like Erika said, go for it. Initiate the conversation. I think that's so important. You see some men who have the skill sets that you, as a different season of a ministry, right? Like you were talking about lead pastors. I don't know how to lead, the church, but there's somebody who has gone that road, and you see that you proactively just create the opportunity for friendship. That's brilliant. But speaking of books, I know there's an author in this room, right? Somebody has written an amazing book. Mary, you know who that is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my wonderful friend, Erika, did you want to tell us about your book and how you came about writing it, how the Lord kind of led you on the journey to write it, and how it's been blessing women already?
Yes, so the book is called The Friendship Lifeline. It's a biblical guide to choosing and maintaining godly friendships. And that book actually came about because I was going through a really bad breakup with one of my best friends of over a decade, and I was absolutely heartbroken. I did not understand why it happened. I didn't understand why we could not fix it. And so I began asking the Lord some serious questions like, okay, are betrayals inevitable in friendships? What is a godly friendship supposed to look like? What characteristics should I be looking for in a friend? And what characteristics should I be embodying as a friend? And so I began searching the scriptures for those answers. And as I was doing that, the Holy Spirit spoke and told me to write a book on friendships. And so in that process, I've interviewed over 100 women about their experiences within friendships, and I would ask them questions like, who is your best friend? How long have you been best friends? What qualities does she have? And what challenges are you experiencing in your friendships? And so from that, I formulated the top 5 challenges that most women go through in friendships. And the book actually gives a biblical perspective on how to overcome those challenges. I have received messages since writing that book concerning how to deal with those different challenges that I talked about within the book, and they've expressed how it's helped them, and it's kind of like a go-to guide for them.
Could you tell us 2 out of top 5? Because we want people to discover the rest, but give us 2
So
as
one
a
of them,
teaser.
yes, one of them is jealousy. So many women experience jealousy within their friendships, and I can tell you, if you do not deal with jealousy, as soon as it pops up at the root, it is going to destroy your friendship later on. I interviewed, like I said, a little over 100. I think there were maybe 2 friendships that experienced jealousy that actually survived. Beyond it, they're still friends and good friends today. But other than that, the rest of them, they don't even talk to that person anymore. Another one was competition. Surprisingly, something called one-upping, where basically Mary does something great. She accomplishes something great. And as her friend, I see that and I say, well, she did it. I can do it too. So I'm going to do it, but I'm not just going to do what Mary did. I'm going to do it even better than Mary so that I can look like the best person in the group.
Wow, I can't wait to read the rest of it. I'm excited to order your book. I'm going to do that right after this conversation. So exciting.
So something that I think both of you guys have mentioned in our conversations is just grieving the loss of friendship, and you even just saying, Erika, that's kind of one of the reasons that the book came along. So I think that's something that all of us have probably experienced in some form or fashion. So I'd love to just hear what advice that you guys have on how individuals can grieve the loss of a friendship, but also stay open to new friendships come along and not just automatically believing this person is going to hurt me like the last one did. So Rhonda, do you want to start off with any advice you may have with that?
Sure. One of the things that I think is important in leadership in general, it's always good to have a good point of reference for good counsel, whether you have a counselor in your life or a mentor in your life where you're talking through these situations so that you can come to a sense of resolution. There are times where there's just something on the inside of us that we need to own so that we don't repeat unhealthy patterns. And we have to be willing to take an honest look at ourselves and say, is there something that I do to contribute to the breakdown of friendship, and what can I learn? And we always want to grow, right, as leaders. And so I think having a trusted person in our life, I think counseling is a very healthy and important thing as a leader because we face so much, right? But being able to go through that friendship and being able to process that with someone so that we can heal fully and not bring suspicion into our next friendships. I think if we can have a sense of closure, maybe at times we hang on to friendships too tightly to where they become unhealthy. And maybe we need to hold some of our relationships a little bit more loosely in our hands and trust those relationships with the Lord. But I would definitely say to be able to process those losses in a healthy way so that we can keep a healthy perspective that not everyone is out to get us, right? And so that we can enter and be open to new friendships.
For me, when I experienced the loss of a friendship, something that helped me was first acknowledging that the relationship was over, that it was essentially the death of a friendship. So I had to acknowledge, okay, I'm no longer going to be talking to this person on a regular basis. I'm no longer going to be texting or interacting with this person on social media with this person. And it was acknowledging that was gone and accepting it. And then the other part, in order to heal, I had to just be honest with myself and be honest with God about how I felt, not only concerning the friendship ending, but how I felt about that person. Me being honest with God and saying, you know what, Lord, I don't understand why you're blessing this person in ministry, why this person is continuing to do well, honestly. When I said that to the Lord, that's when healing came, because I was honest with myself. I was honest with him. He was able to do something with it. And something that helped me with that was reading the Psalms and what David was praying, which we know now through the teachings of Jesus. We don't pray for people to be tortured or die or anything like that. That was just the extreme side of David. But the part where he's just honest and raw with God, God honored that. And I believe that's what helped me heal in that situation, as well as just being honest with God. And even and then, God saying to me, you know what, Erika, I really don't need your permission to bless this person. I really don't need your permission to bless their ministry. And the healing part of that was me recognizing, hey, if he doesn't need my permission to bless her, he also doesn't need her permission to bless me. And I mean, after that, I was good. But, just being honest about it helps spur about the healing.
That's really good. Authenticity is one of our core values of our network of women ministers. So yeah, honesty, absolutely. It's so wonderful. This time has been so enriching, and I am so thankful that God has brought you two in this season of Mary and my life to increase in our friendship journey. So thank you so much for your voice. I'm going to ask you just a random question, not related to ministry. Well, maybe it is. We're talking about friendship. So tell me your best vacation or resting time with your friends. What is the most ideal? What would be your ideal best time of just resting with friends? What would it look like?
I would go to the spa. I would do a spa day.
All right, I'll be your date. Yes.
Hey, come on.
That's awesome. I love it. Yes. Pastor Rhonda.
I would say the same. I love to go to new cities. I love to go to places I've never been before, try new restaurants, go experience new things with friends, and the spa is a definite yes.
Well, I think it's going to be super awesome. I think we're planning some fun trip is coming up. I think maybe in this cohort, I don't know. But Erika and Pastor Rhonda, thank you so much for your wisdom and speaking into this important topic of friendship. We so appreciate you. It is just so enriching to have that kind of conversation. What is your biggest takeaway from our conversation today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that stood out at the beginning was when Pastor Rhonda said we can't anchor ourselves in individuals. God has had to deal with that with me before, and saying I've made friendships into idols, thinking that I can't survive this season unless I have friends. Not to say that we shouldn't desire friends, but again, when Pastor Rhonda was saying in seasons of loneliness, do we go to God first, or do we fill up our schedules with all this busyness? Because I know recently for me, when that happened, I tried to fill up, my schedule with everything, and everything kind of fell through. And so when I paused and finally took the time to ask the Lord, he was telling me that what I actually needed to do was process some of the trauma that I was going through and actually go to counseling, that there wasn't really any time or any room for me to dig into new friendships when I needed to heal first myself. So I would say, yeah, that definitely stood out to me by far.
Oh, that's really good. And I'm also loving the fact that we're talking about the friendship in every season. Mm-hmm. That means that God will always provide what we need through friendship, a friendship in ministry, friendship in marriage, friendship in whatever season that we find ourselves, then God will provide. But the best friend is always Jesus. Just like your husband is always there, but he's a second best friend, right?
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining our conversation to grow together in friendship in every season of our life. Don't forget to follow us on social media at AG Women Ministers, and let's keep on collecting friends in this season. And we love you and see you back. God bless.